Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Bavaria in Germany once again, so it's another Bayerische beer that we're going to have a look at today, and this is my first review from this brewery in about 2 years, but it is one of the better known Bayerische breweries. So we're going to return to Privatbrauerei Ayinger, who are from the town of Aying, just a little bit to the southeast of Munich of course, and we're having a taste of the Altbairisch Dunkel today. Now, as I've mentioned to you in a few recent videos, the Dunkel beer is one that I've really gotten back into recently. I love my Helles beers and I love my Dunkel beers, and really that's thanks to Peter over at the Clueless Drinker. He reviewed, I believe it was the Augustiner Dunkel, and I really loved that beer, and ever since then I've just been wanting to review a lot of different Dunkel beers. So do make sure you go out and check out Peter's channel if you haven't had the chance already. I'll put the link to that in the description below. What I would also be interested to hear from my German viewers is recommendations for other Dunkel beers. According to Rate Beer, this is the best German brewed Dunkel that you're going to come across. The style that seems to go together is the Dunkel and the Czech Tvami as well, so do let me know what your favourite beers within that style category are, but I'm definitely looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So yeah, I'll take you through a little bit of a history of the brewery just now. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Ayinger reviews that I've done before. This is review number 4 that I'm doing from them. It's been the first time in about 2 years that I've reviewed one of their beers though. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Privatbrauerei Ayinger then. So the Aying Brewery was founded back in 1876 by Johann Liebhardt, who took over his parents' estate that they bought back in the year 1810, and he was assisted by his wife Maria, but the pair had really been inspired to open a brewery because of the economic boom that was going on in Germany following victory over France in the Franco-Prussian War. And of course this was when Germany united under Bismarck, and it was a very prosperous time. Germany of course is a relatively new country when you're talking about Europe, but they began constructing their brewery in 1877 and they produced the first beer in February of 1878, and during this time they actually could only brew beer between September and April in the winter, and this was mainly due to the fact that you didn't have artificial refrigeration at the time. You didn't have electrical refrigeration stuff like we have today. But the brewery continued to grow due to the development of the railways, telephones and electricity at the beginning of the 20th century. So Johann passed the brewery on to his eldest daughter's husband, who was August Zehntmeyer, and Johann died in 1910, and then August had to go and fight in the First World War, and during this period the brewery was run completely by his wife and 3 young daughters, but due to the rationing of malt and things like this, only 15% of the brewery capacity was used during the First World War. But when August returned home from the war, the brewery was in trouble due to the economic crisis that went around of Germany, largely as a result of the Treaty of Versailles, the Wall Street crash and all these sort of things. But the brewery also suffered from a fire, but they did manage to rebuild it thankfully. In the late 1920s though, the brewery began regaining growth, and this was because they started bottling their beers and they went into Munich, and they invested in trucks as well, which was taking their beer up to Munich too, so the brewery did recover fairly strongly. In 1936 the brewery then passed to the eldest daughter of August, which was Maria, and her husband Franz Kresen's Inselkammer, and the brewery production lowered during the Second World War because of damage and things like that, but Franz managed to grow the brewery very successfully in the post-war years. So the brewery bought the Platzel Hotel in Munich in 1953, and they invested heavily in the infrastructure of the brewery in the late 50s and early 1960s. And in 1963 Maria and Franz passed on the brewery to their eldest son Franz Jr., who had been trained in business and also as a master brewer at Weinstefan, a very prestigious brewing school of course at the Technical University of Munich, and of course home to the world's oldest brewery. But his brother Gustav ran the brewery tavern and Peter ran the Platzel Hotel in Munich, so it was a completely family run business at this time. But under their stewardship the company began to grow very steadily, and it's continued to do so ever since. And like I said, these guys are one of the best known Bavarian beer brands these days, especially outside of Germany, of course. This is one of the breweries that you will find fairly easily exported around the world. But the brewery celebrated their 100th anniversary in 1978, and the brewery also helped establish a local history museum talking about the history of the city of Munich and different beers and things like that. But since then, the brewery completed drilling to find their own water source, and they've also opened a new brewery building back in 1999, which is widely regarded as one of the most technologically advanced in Europe. So they are a fairly big operation. But the thing that's always impressed me about German beer is the fact that they can produce on such a big scale and maintain very, very good quality. So it's a completely different game going from the microbreweries going to the traditional German breweries, but they do maintain that kind of similar standard of quality. But a very, very good brewery, and that's all you need to know about them just now. So as I said, the brewery website's in the description below if you want to read a little bit more, but we'll get on to the tasting now. Just to list the other beers you can get from these guys quickly, there's the Lager beer Hell, the Bayerische Pils, the Jahrhundert beer, which is one that I really, really enjoyed, lovely Helles beer. There's this guy here, which is the Altbairisch Dunkel. There's the Celebrator Doppelbock, the Keller beer, Leicher Brauweiss, Bräuweiss, Urweiss, also a Radler beer. And then in the seasonals, they've got their Winterbock, which is a lovely, lovely beer, the Kirte beer, Frühlingsbier, which is their spring beer, and they also have the Weizenbock as well. So lots of different beers available from these guys, and like I say, a brewery that I've had very positive experiences with in the past, so make sure you check them out if you get the chance. So one thing I will point out about the name of this one, so Bayerisch, or Bayer, if I'm remembering correctly, is a village that's just over a little bit to the east of Ayinger. So I think that's why you have this name, because you might mistake that for Bayerische, which of course means Bavarian in German. But there you can see these blue and white checks, of course. I'm just checking on the camera control that you can see that. But these blue and white checks, of course, are the symbol of Bavaria, of course. You can see, here's the little top label. You can see the old brewery building just kind of shown here. On the top of the bottle label there, which is really quite nice. I think it's also showing you the town of Aying as well. I do need to get out and visit Aying at some point. I didn't get the chance when I was in Munich this time, but as you can see, really nicely presented, and all of the Ayinger beers do have a quite similar style of artwork. It's just usually different coloured labels and things like that. But like I mentioned to you, this one comes in at 5% ABV, and it is a Bayerische Dunkel style beer. So yeah, as you can see, nice smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. One thing I will point out about this beer, as I mentioned in my Hofbräu Dunkel review, normally you would drink this beer out of a stein. Unfortunately, I don't have one of the stein mugs to drink the beer out of, but I always enjoy the tulip glass because it is kind of a very well-rounded one. You do get the same kind of things of the aroma, and it does encourage more of a kind of sessioning rather than sipping the beer, I would say. But yeah, really nice looking beer, this one, and as you can see, it's poured that typical nice mahogany, kind of slightly coppery colour that you would expect of the style. There's a half finger of a frothy, slightly beigey, kind of creamy tanned head on this one. It looks very, very nice. If we sugar that up a little bit, it does become a little bit more frothy. Some of the bubbles in that are quite big. You can't really see it on this one because of the kind of condensation around the glass, but this beer is actually quite transparent. You can't see it so well because of the colour and the condensation there, but one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there, and you can smell some of that lovely kind of roasted brown sugar note coming off of this as you open up. But we'll take a little closer look at the aroma now and see how we get on. But yeah, that smells really good. For me, in comparison to the other Dunkels before, the brown sugar note that's coming out of this one does actually smell quite dark, which is really interesting. It smells as if it's really quite well fired and quite toasty. It's maybe even leaning towards treacle a little bit. But yeah, definitely some dark brown sugars in there, some nice sweet caramel, a little bit of biscuit and kind of grainy character too, some roasted grainy notes just underneath that. Maybe just a little bit of chocolate. But yeah, the thing that I always love about these Dunkel beers is you get that lovely German brown bread base to them. Germany do some of the best bread in the world, in my opinion. The pumpernickel bread and things like that, and the German rye bread are always lovely. You can definitely get a little bit of that just kind of underpinning this beer. Other than that though, you can pick up a wee bit of character from the noble hops. The Dunkel, of course, is a more malty leaning beer, as you would expect, so the hops aren't quite as pronounced as they are in a Helles, for example. But yeah, you can smell that really nice, a little bit of that sweet earthiness that you expect of the German noble hops. There is a little bit of floral and grassy character there, but a little bit subdued, and you can pick out a little bit of red fruit in there as well. For me, it's quite a sort of figgy character that's coming out of this one, or a kind of candied red fruit note in the aroma. But yeah, it smells really, really nice, and it does smell quite typical. Like I said, in comparison to the other Dunkels I've had recently, this one does smell just a little bit more roasty and a bit more well fired. These brown sugars are coming out really nicely in this one. But without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. So this one is the Altbairisch Dunkel from the Privatbrauerei Ayinger in Aying, just to the southeast of Germany, of Munich, sorry. Saying the wrong thing. Let's get stuck into this beer. Prost. Yeah, that's a lovely, lovely beer. The one thing I would say about this actually is with this one, you can feel a little bit of this. The way the brown sugars are coming out in this, it really does remind me of the Celebrator Doppelbock, which is, you know, it's one of the best Doppelbocks in the world, one of the most recognisable Doppelbocks in the world. The way that the brown sugars are coming out in this one, it really does remind me of that. And when it's from the same brewery, you know, you can start to see this one in some ways. The Bock, of course, is a different style completely from the Dunkel. But you can see that the type, I wonder if the type of malt that they're using to a degree in this one is the same, because it just has that same vibe about it. It almost feels like this beer is the little brother of the Celebrator a wee bit. But yeah, that's a really quite nice beer, that. You know, the thing you can, as I was saying, with the German beers, what's always impressed me with them is how they can produce on such a big scale, but still maintain that really high level of quality. All of these big Bayerische breweries really impress me with that. This one's no exception to that rule. So in terms of this beer then, it isn't quite as well fired. I was expecting it might have a wee kind of toasty element to it, and it certainly does have that, but it really smooths out, and it's a lot kind of sweeter than I was thinking the beer would be just from the aroma. It really did have quite a bit of a roasty character to it, but it just smooths out and becomes a lot more sweet rather than roasty. But yeah, that's a really damn good beer. So as you would expect with this one then, in the middle of your palate where all the malty notes are coming out, you can feel that nice brown, bready, almost pumpernickel type bread just forming the kind of linchpin of this beer. It actually comes out a little bit more as you progress into beer. Once the mouthfeel dries out a little bit more, that's when you start to get this nice brown bready character. Right in the middle of your palate, as you just come in from the edge, you can feel a little bit of the almost biscuity malts coming out, but then right in the middle of your tongue, that's where you get the nice oily caramel, and there's a little bit of an almost slightly darker treacle note in there as well. But you can definitely feel it's more of a toasted brown sugar note that comes out this one. Like I said, a little bit sweeter than I thought it was going to be, going by the aroma, but it really is quite nice, and there's maybe just a wee tiny hint of chocolate in there as well. You can just pick up a little bit of that. But I tell you something, it's a really pretty damn good beer. I always love these Dunkel beers. It is nice. It's one of the things that's quite unique to Germany in that regard, is that you have a dark beer that you can session, of course, in America and I guess in Belgium and things like that as well. The beers, these big darker beers are sippers, and that's what really makes the Dunkel beer unique for me, is that it is so sessionable. It's lovely to have a dark beer like this that's only 5% or so that you can really, really enjoy. But this is a cracking beer, this one. In terms of the hoppy side of this beer then, in the back corners of the palates, as you would expect, that's where you get a little bit of this earthy character. You can feel that sort of sweet, very slightly sweet, noble earthy character. As you come further forward along the sides of your tongue, you can feel a little bit of the kind of floral note coming out, and as you go round the very front curve of the palate, that's where you get some of these nice, just lighter grassy notes. The hops, of course, aren't the most prominent thing. The earthy character, and it's maybe even very, very slightly herbal, but mainly more earthy. You can feel that just spreading along the sides of the tongue too, and it really does build a good bridge between that slightly grainy, bready base that it has and the nice hoppy character. So everything in this beer just goes together really well, and that is another kind of trait, another sort of typical trait that you'll come across with these German Dunkels. But yeah, really lovely beer. So if you just go behind the front curve of the tongue then, that's where you get this nice little oily bubble where the fruity character starts to come out of the beer. It's a little bit of a kind of candied red fruit note. There's a wee bit of an almost kind of plummy sharpness to it. You can pick up a little bit of that almost raisin and plummy, slightly sharper red fruity ester coming out of the beer. But like I said, it's really, really good, and I just like how everything fits together in it so well. Compared to the other Dunkels, it is a little bit more roasty and toasty than from what I can remember the other ones being. But again, very, very good. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, I'd say it's mid-bodied. This one to me, it feels a little bit wetter. It does have that typical oily character that you expect, but a little bit wetter than some of the other ones that I've come across. It is really quite sessionable, this beer. There's a big malty sweetness to this one. Like I said, it leans a little bit towards the kind of roasty, toasty side of things. Lovely smooth hops. The earthiness does have a little bit of a slightly sweeter character than I can remember some of the other ones having as well. And there is just a little bit of that fruity note, and the fruity notes in this one, it is just a little bit sharper. It is leaning towards the raisin and plums rather than the sort of candied red fruits and the sort of figgy type things. But once again, it's another really, really top class Dunkel beer, and I am glad that I'm going through this phase where I'm reviewing a lot of really good German Dunkel beers, because they're just amazing. I love them. I really do love them. So it's been really cool to review this one for you, and I hope you've enjoyed my take on it then. So as always, please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Thank you for watching my beer reviews. Do let me know some other Dunkel beers that I should be having a look at, because I know there's a hell of a lot out there. There's something crazy like 3,000 or 4,000 breweries in Germany. There's a lot of beer to get through from there, and hopefully I can do most of that over my lifetime. But a really very, very good beer, this one. So once again, thank you for watching. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Ayinger as well. Let me know some other Dunkels, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. Make sure you follow the Ayinger Brewery on Facebook and all these sorts of things, and do make sure you try these beers if you haven't had the chance. But it's been really cool to do another German Dunkel beer, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Prost.